blueprint from standing. And we're just going to pick a Taitoshi throw, but really you could enter this blueprint through any throw as long as you keep control of the sleeve. We're going to show you some tips on how to do that, okay? We're just using Taitoshi for now. So we come through, okay, and again, it all starts with keeping control of the sleeve, which actually I always challenge my students to keep control of the technique through the entire throw. So it makes sense if you're already doing pinpoint accuracy on your tachiwaza, the seamless newaza transition is going to come naturally, okay? So keep control of this sleeve right off the bat. So when I come through for Taitoshi, here, right? You can see when I keep control, it makes entering this blueprint so much easier. I keep my right hand where it is, I let my sleeve go for a second, and I just pivot my hand. So from a sleeve grip, I pivot my hand over to grab the meat of his hand. Not just the wrist. Grab the meat of his hand. My 4 fingers should actually be right in the middle of his palm, right? That's a good detail to have, okay? It controls his whole hand, not just his wrist. So I just got done throwing him. I pivot over. Look how I'm going to fold his hand over my lapel arm here. Fold it over. Right? I don't have to move this hand at all. This lapel hand stays where it is. I fold his arm over my arm here. Here. And you can see that I grab my own wrist. And in this case, look how easy it is to grab the belt. Okay? I land here, I cap him off. So with my legs, right, after a throw, I just threw him here. As I fold his arm over my arm, I'm going to take a step over his head and cap his body off. Right? It should look like you're sitting in seiza when you're doing it. So I just got done throwing him. Look how I'm going to fold his arm and I step. And this is what I tell my students to cap the person off. Okay? I have the Kimura here. I'm going to enter the blueprint by grabbing the belt or the skirt. Right? In this case, I'm going to grab the belt. I'm making a small sliding motion. So I always want my inner wrist to maintain connection on his outer wrist. So this limb just slides over. What we don't want to do is go for a big reach, introduce space in the position, and that arm's going to escape. Okay? So we want to make a small sliding motion. I grab the belt over his limb. Right? We're tying this off. So I have to go over. When that's over and through, I pass it to my top hand, and then we pull the slack out of that device. Okay? And now we're here. We can go anywhere we want. We go to asaikomi, go to a strangle, go to an armbar, whatever position you want. Okay? Well, let's look at that one more time from that throw transition. Okay? We come through. Right? We keep that sleeve. This happens at the same time. I move my leg as I fold over his arm to my bottom hand here. Right? You can see that I cap his body off. I let that sleeve go. I could go for the tail and fold it over. Right? Worst case scenario, hey, let's just go back for osaikomi. Not only did I throw for a wazari, I could also pin for a wazari too. Get the ippon and we're moving on. Okay? But when we're done throwing, it's important that we keep control. We gotta keep our hands on the uke when we finish our throw. That's one thing that I tell my students from the kids class all the way to the adult class. We want to be sure that we keep control of this person all the way through the technique. Okay? So when we're done throwing, I'm going to fold this arm over my lapel hand as I take a step. Okay? And sometimes, right, another detail, you don't always have to grab the wrist. You can just use your whole arm or your forearm and just lock everything up. So even hands-free or grip-free, if your wrists are where they need to be, you don't have to grab anything. Right? Just use your wrists and your hands, and I could still grab and still feed it to this free hand here. Whether it be the belt, right? In some cases, there's a lapel. You can look for the lapel, feed it over. Right? And one of the best things to do before you go anywhere, before you go for the osaikomi, before you go for the strangle, before you go for the arm lock, shoulder lock, you want to be sure that this device is tight. So what does that mean, okay? We land here. We just got done throwing him. Okay? If we reach for something and we just get what we get and try and move, look, his hand could still move. And you guys know how it is in the dojo, at a tournament, right? Everything is ramped up. So if this person's trying to fight and get out, you can't leave any space, okay? So we could start by grabbing what we want, and that will kind of just get the initial catch. But what we want to do is really make sure and pull the slack out of this technique, okay? So in this case, it's still pretty loose. I want to grab the end of this tail here, and it's like a zip tie. I'm going to loosen up my grip. I'm going to bottom out my hand and pull the tail out. Right? You can see how my hand moves, and there's that zip tie action. The more that we could pull the slack out of the device here, the tighter the whole system is. Okay, so we get this far. We get what we get. Don't be afraid to move and really take the slack out of that position here. Because now it's very tight, and this whole limb has been deactivated. Okay? If in doubt, just go for a pin. Okay? And that's how you kind of enter this blueprint off of a throw. Again, always keep your hands on the uke when you throw them. Not only is that good for your tachiwaza skills to finish your technique cleanly, it protects the uke from taking a devastating fall, but it also opens up opportunities to work on transitions. In this case, we're just using the Kimura tie-off. So give it a try, and try it for different throws too. We just picked Hayatoshi just to show you there, but it'll work for a vast majority of techniques, so give it a try.